Plus, we're also going to talk in a second as well about the Oxford students who called for the broadcaster Jenni Murray to be refused permission to speak at last weekend's literary festival because of her allegedly transphobic comments that she made. You remember those comments she made about trans women? We'll be joined by the university's LGBTQ Society president for more on that one in just a second, and of course more from you too. 0345 6060 973. First, the news headlines. They come from Paul Smith.
Nights with Ian Collins on LBC.
Never before did I think I would even care what Jenni Murray had to say. However, we followed this story through more than one evolution in the last couple of months, and it culminated in another turn of events just this weekend. So, remember Jenni Murray made comments about trans women. She suggested or questioned that men who transition to a woman are not real women. Well, a group of Oxford University students tried to ban Jenni Murray from their campus because she questioned this, and the school's LGBTQ Society tried to prevent the broadcaster from delivering a talk last weekend at the Oxford Literary Festival. The Society circulated a petition that called for Murray to be removed from the event because of her comments, which they deemed as offensive. I'm joined now by Kat Walton. Kat is Oxford University's LGBTQ Society president. Evening to you, Kat.
Hello, how are you this evening?
Nice, very well at this end. Nice to have you with us. Right, I'll throw the obvious stuff at you first. You'd heard all this, but I'd be failing if I didn't. What on earth happened to freedom of speech?
Well, actually, if you take your time to actually read the statement that we have circulated more than once now.
I've read it 3 times.
Yeah, well, there is actually quite a difference between free speech and what we're talking about is platforming. Of course, Jenni Murray has every right to say exactly what she wants to say, as do we have every right to say when we condemn her. And what we are doing here is exercising our right for free speech, and we are condemning what she's saying as transphobic and which has the potential to then propagate violence. And the reason why we've taken such a stance is because Oxford University is not an impartial place, and we condemn the Oxford Literary Festival for hosting her in a space where trans students live and work every single day, and it's inappropriate.
Well, why can't you? Yeah, I mean, I absolutely support your right to your view, but I also support her right to her view. How do we get to a point where she's allowed to make her points known without you taking it to the... Well, I mean, you said there that the upshot of this could be, violence against people. She's just got an opinion that a trans woman can never be a real woman like someone who was born a woman. I mean, that's kind of it. And, she's not alone in that view either, is she, Kat? I mean, there is, still in the world of science, medicine, psychiatry, there's a lot of question marks over that whole process. That's not an entirely original position that she's adopted here.
No, I think the position that she's adopted is sort of rather defunct and a bit reminiscent of the old days of feminism. It doesn't really reflect the view of today. So really what we're looking at is distincting between gender, which is socially sort of indoctrinated into a person, and then sex. And they're two very, very different things. And so being born a woman is, I would say, very different to what it comes down to in terms of reproduction.
Sure.
And also, what does it mean to be born a woman? What does that mean? I think there is no one unified experience of womanhood. And if Jenni Murray is explaining that, then she's...
Okay. I mean, many feminists might well, and I'm sure you would regard yourself as exactly that, would surely suggest that there is would it be reasonable to say, a common hymn sheet from which you would be able to sing and agree upon?
I would say...
If I had a bullet point list, we could say, right, these are the top 10 feminist points. Most women would tend to say, yeah, I concur with that and that. That's unarguable.
Well, I would say that above all and anything, there is intersectionality. And that's what we're talking about, is all the different intersections that make up a person. It doesn't just come down to gender. It comes down to race. It comes down to where you come from. It comes down to sort of like your schooling, your education. There's all different things that play into it, and that comes into forming a person. And if we as feminists can't come to respect and understand the lived experiences, or at least offer our respect and solidarity to them, then we can't call ourselves a feminist. I do not believe that you can call yourself a feminist and dismiss trans women as women, because it's just a different experience of womanhood, as every woman has.
But could you, I mean, maybe her choice of real was unfortunate, but is it not reasonable, if you were trying to bring, new evidence to the debate on this one, could you not say, well, if a guy has been a guy for 40 years and then believes at some point whether there'd been this dormant sense all along, or whether it was something that manifested itself later in life, regardless of that at the age of 45 decided that actually this body was just not the one they were comfortable in, then it's fair to say that person's had 45 years of a male experience and then goes on to a female experience. That's not the same experience that you would have had, Kat, unless you're about to tell me you were previously a male. I don't know. But regardless of that, and I say that not facetiously, by the way, you just never know. But is it not reasonable that somebody might have, you could say that person has not had the same female journey as I have?
I'm just going to stop you there and say that my gender identity has got nothing to do with this, as does anyone's gender identity. What I'm here to do is to talk about and protect trans students and make sure that their voices are being heard.
Why are they not being protected just because Jenni Murray has a view on what makes up a trans woman?
Because comments like what Jenni Murray propagated at the Times and what is coming out all the time now is the sort of thing that is leading to trans people getting harassed. They're getting
but she's not
abused,
some mad homophobe or genderphobe, is she, or transphobe who's standing there saying, look at these freaks in dresses. I could understand it if that's what she was doing.
I think I'd rather if you didn't use that sort of language, but...
No, hang on a second. I'm paraphrasing the kind of thing that somebody would say that would be clearly offensive. And you're speaking to me from, one of the world's most...
It'd be really, really good if you could just let me answer your question.
OK, well, if we keep to the question rather than worrying what examples I'm giving, then let's carry on. Go for it, Kat.
OK. Well, basically, the sort of comments that Jenni Murray has been making are the sort of comments that leads to an atmosphere and a world where trans women and trans people in general and people that identify outside the binary, they're facing violence every single day. And it isn't acceptable. And these sort of comments are letting people believe that it's okay to then go on to the more harmful things. And also, I think it's a very dangerous thing to sort of start saying, oh, well, this wasn't that offensive, because we all come into this world with lots of different experiences. Yeah. And what one person finds offensive, another person might not find offensive at all. And I think what we really need to talk about here is some sort of respect. And when it comes down to it, Jenni Murray coming out saying, oh, yeah, no, I respect people, trans women, but they're not real women. Well, that's just... it may be. Yes, seeing it in the written word, obviously, much like a tweet, it's very hard to gauge tone and context when somebody says that. So it could be seen as perhaps a little casual or dismissive, but you'd have to look at the wider context. So hang on a second, this is Jenni Murray, clearly a very intelligent professional woman. She wouldn't be setting out to harm somebody. So in the same way that Frankie Boyle or Ricky Gervais can tell, Joan Rivers, whoever you like, can tell jokes that, about Down syndrome children, they will always use the defence that, in fact, it doesn't come from a bad place. So therefore, I'm in that territory. I don't care where something's come from. There's a massive difference between intention and ramification.
Yeah, but you're saying that it's a knock-on effect to going beating people up in the street, and that's just intellectual nonsense, Kat.
Please let me answer your question.
Go on.
There is a massive difference between whether somebody intends to cause offence or harm and what those ramifications are. It doesn't matter whether or not you intend to be transphobic or whether or not you intend to propagate what can become violence. It's what those ramifications are. And that's what we're talking about. What is this knock-on effect that is going to happen to our trans community at Oxford? And the LGBTQ society stands strong alongside the LGBTQ campaign and WOMCAN against our trans students and the trans community at Oxford, with unwavering support.
OK, so the literary festival at the weekend, or the week and the weekend that followed, also had somebody from the Humanist Society speaking. Could it not be argued that religious people would suggest that their safety is compromised, all the while you have humanists standing up giving their no-God view? Could you not sort of argue a similar thing?
Well, I haven't really heard or read a lot of statistics about humanists going over and sort of attacking religious people or making them...
Well, I haven't heard any Woman's Hour presenters doing the same thing either, for that matter.
Well, if you actually look at the stats, you will find out that trans women, especially trans women of colour, are most likely to fall into the experience
but nobody is going to... Yeah, I get that, but nobody's going to defend somebody attacking somebody, and that is outrageous if that happens. But by the same token, Oxford, the university, I'm sure the festival... You've got a proud history of inviting controversial figures to debate and discuss issues which either divide opinion or create robust and sometimes emotional responses. You know, if you went back and we're talking, of course, from the seat of intellectual and educational excellence from where you speak today, Kat, has an enormous list of people that we could all scratch our heads and wonder how on earth they got on the guest list.
Yeah, well, I don't really know what to say to that. But
why don't you just disagree with? Why don't you use the national airwaves today to say, do you know what? We called this one wrong. Jenni Murray's just got a different view to me, and it's as simple
we did not call this one wrong.
Well, you clearly did, Kat, didn't you? Because it's sounding a little bit daft.
Excuse me. It's not sounding daft.
Of course it's sounding daft, because you're playing the kind of social justice warrior as if you've got the entire right of the world on your side, when a very small selection of people have the agreement that you've come up with, and the majority of people will just apply common sense. OK,
let's get this straight. You've invited me on your radio show to talk and to talk on behalf of this. And being invited on this show, you have the right to listen to me because you wanted me here. And what I am telling you now is that we are not being daft. Violence against trans people is a problem.
No one would dispute that.
Yes, and these sort of comments normalise that violence, that knock-on effect that you talked about. And what you're talking about now is you are, in fact, propagating that. So I'm propagating violence against trans people by having this debate with you. Do you know how stupid this sounds, Kat? Do you have any idea outside your very tiny bubble just how ridiculous this sounds? So me debating it with you is now propagating more violence against trans people. This could go round in circles. Listen, Kat, it's been interesting. It's been vaguely infuriating, but I'm more than happy to direct people to your web page, Oxford University's LGBTQ plus Society. Kat is the president. I'm grateful she came on and spoke with us. Kat Walton with us here on LBC.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Late nights with Ian Collins on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
You see, it's not really right, and it's not particularly intelligent, is it, to play the card that, well, you can't say that because the upshot could be that someone might get attacked for it. I'm pretty sure it would take us about 0.3 seconds to construct a bunch of arguments as to how you could apply exactly that to pretty much every area of life if you really wanted to. We know that there is such a thing, which I think Kat didn't quite follow me through, of religious hate crimes. People who are attacked for their religion. Sometimes it's race-based. Other times it's just the fact that somebody stands out from the crowd. If you look at the Oxford Literary Festival, look at the guest list of people there. Claire Short was on the guest list. She offends me just by existing, frankly. So, I'm not about to want to ban her, however. And there's an awful lot of people on there that I thought, Jeremy Paxman is on there. I know, would you want to sit there and listen to old Horseface banging on for an hour about his latest tome? Probably not. He's a bit offensive. I appreciate that we're not quite in the same ballpark here, and I'm fiddling around with the language a little bit. But just because Jenni Murray had a view about trans women, and it didn't concur with the kind of consensus down there at the LGBTQ plus organisation, because it didn't quite concur with their idea of what are within the parameters of acceptability. Therefore, the only card we can play is to suggest that person is no greater than someone who beats trans people up. Because you don't agree with us, therefore you are a hater. And it is that kind of vile, poisonous and wholly uneducated approach to discourse that is the very problem. It isn't the solution. The social justice warriors for that is exactly what is going on here. Believe they are forming the solution, and they are, in fact, of course, creating the problem. They just haven't quite seen it yet. Maybe a couple of years after leaving uni. Maybe they will then, who knows. Once you've, I suppose, separated yourself from the echo chamber that is 0345 6060 973.